Gen Alpha is deeply unprepared for the real world as they are entering primary school. A new survey of teachers finds that these iPad babies are not capable of basic human tasks like using books, not reading, but using books, walking up staircases, and they're using weird terminally online language. These are 5 to 7-year-olds we're talking about. And I am just so scared for what happens when these people take over the adult world. According to a survey of teachers in the UK, some children in Gen Alpha are starting school unable to climb a staircase. And granted, these are students in the UK. They're using Americanisms in their speech because of too much screen time.
I mean, I thought that was happening just because of the internet in general, that language is becoming more diluted.
But you would hope a 5-year-old wouldn't be exposed to that much content that it would actually change their vocabulary.
Hasn't it been changing accents for people
and
also?
Accents, yeah. The pandemic has been blamed for a decline in school readiness among children, but some teachers now believe that COVID baby explanation is feeling like an excuse. And 49% of teachers thought the problem had gotten even worse over just the past year. There's only so long you can blame COVID for that. I'm sorry, but a lot of it comes down to parenting as well. Too many parents are failing to support the development of their children despite having their best interests at heart. The thing is, I don't think from the sound of these statistics that these parents do have their children's best interests at heart, given some children aged 5 to 7 years old are showing up to school still wearing diapers.
Oh my goodness.
When Mary told me that, I was like, oof.
Yeah. 1 in 4 students who began school last year, according to this survey, were not potty trained. And only 3 out of 4 parents on the survey identified potty training as something a child should have to do before starting school.
They literally expect the teachers to just do it for them.
Cool. So you're expecting kindergarten and first grade teachers to be changing your 6-year-old's diapers? What the actual F is wrong with you?
How on earth? Like, I can't even imagine that stuff.
It's straight up child neglect.
Yeah.
Like, this is something you should be investigated for. I don't know what version of the CPS exists in the UK, but they need to call immediately.
Right.
Teachers reported children with poor basic motor skills and underdeveloped muscles, which they linked with excessive screen use. These kids are just sitting on tablets all day, not going outside, not using their muscles for anything, so they're atrophied. One teacher said, I've got 2 children in my class who physically cannot sit on the carpet. They don't have enough core strength to sit up. Teachers reported an increase in delayed walkers. Kids who are 5 to 7 years old who can't walk properly. Clumsy movements, they're dropping things, they're unable to climb a staircase.
They're going to have to teach them that if they want to be able to look smacks, they have to learn to walk smacks first.
You know, I think a huge reason why this statistic is coming out of the UK is because they have a much different government system. They rely on the government for the dole, for healthcare, for everything, and they think that the government is responsible for raising their children to a great extent.
Chapel Roan should move there.
They also noticed students are using Americanisms such as trash instead of rubbish or vacation instead of holiday.
Are they saying garbage
Meaning
instead of bin?
They're using these, they're using these terms that they picked up from American influencers and YouTubers.
John Pork.
Rather than listening to the way that their own parents and family members and friends speak.
That's what happens when you let Logan Paul raise your children.
It's a whole nother level of brain rot.
Yep.
Gen Alpha cannot read, let alone use books to learn how to read. Fewer than half of parents surveyed said that they thought children starting school should know how to use books correctly, meaning turning pages rather than swiping or tapping on them as if they were using a touchscreen. They don't know how to turn pages in books. These are kindergarten, first grade students.
Yep.
They don't know what a book
Is this happening in the United States as well, or is this just in England?
You know what?
I wouldn't be
I'm
surprised.
guessing that the situation is worse in the UK because of that system where they rely on the government for so much more.
Actually, in America, I
But-
bet you they just don't even know what books are because they get tablets in school anyways.
Think about this. Like, there was this huge resurgence of homeschooling that people were talking about ever since lockdowns. And everyone was saying, like, this is great. Like, parents are taking control of their children's education. And then you find out it actually was the case that, you know, kids went to remote learning. They got pulled out of school by their parents. They were then registered, you know, with the government as being homeschooled. And these parents were not homeschooling their children. They just were completely neglecting their children's education altogether. And in fact, some of the parents are turning to new trends like unschooling, which basically means you don't teach your child anything, you don't regiment their life at all, and you presume that they will choose the pace of their
that's
own
bad.
learning. So
I
they
remember we
learn,
talked about that, right? Yeah.
They learn to read and write when they're like 9 years old because it was never forced upon them. And that's the whole pedagogy. Is it's completely up to the child when it's appropriate for them to learn these basic tasks.
Look, we told parents they can't spank their kids. Look where we're at now.
I mean, clearly there has been some kind of slippery slope effect there, right?
Like at a certain point, people just
Yeah.
stopped. I think part of it is also we've talked about. We had that video about mom groups on Facebook, and part of it is like when everything is on social media, you're going to be terrified to do anything to raise your child in any type of strict way because people are going to tell you that you're ruining your child's life.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like it's probably a good idea to keep your kids away from the internet and
Yep.
keep the internet away from your kids until they're teenagers.
Well, don't share your journey as a parent because
Yeah.
you're going to get
God,
horrible
no.
advice from
God,
people.
no.
Well, the kind of the black pill in all of this is that, yes, you can control the environment of your own child, but you can't control the fact that this might be the school your child goes to around all of these invalids. And they're also going to have to grow up and work in the same world as all of these children who are not learning to read, are not potty trained, are not learning to even
This
use
is a
their
recipe
muscles
for a
properly.
generation of criminals.
Yeah, I mean, it's
And this is
insane.
just-
There's
this
nothing you
is-
can really do to save your future, your child from the future of living around people who are raised like this.
And this is just the most extreme example. I remember I was having a conversation over the holiday break with someone whose whole job it is. They basically they train people. He works in insurance and he trains new agents in insurance, and his whole job is to train Gen Zers who are coming on board because they have a different value system than millennials and Gen Xers. So his whole job is to identify what it is that these employees are looking for and help figure out how the company can learn to accommodate them, not in a way that's unrealistic, but just saying that, look, what you want from this job is something different than what somebody from Gen X or a millennial may want. Therefore, he's better at bringing them on board with people from different generations so they can all work together cohesively. And that's just the most base level. We're talking about something now that's far and beyond, far beyond any of that, where they're just not going to be suitable for
Right.
jobs.
right.
And then it will be placed on the previous generations as at fault, right? So it won't be the parents that are held responsible. It will be the employers. By that time, it will be Gen Z employers who are going to be told that it's their fault that they don't want to employ Gen Alphas because they don't know how to go to the bathroom and they can't walk upstairs to their office.
It's like, it's not that that's going to, it's not that these kids aren't going to catch up in some regards, but there are some ways that it's simply permanently set into them that they're stunted. So, I mean, I remember even just in college proofreading essays from my classmates in a creative writing course. And this was for a research project we were assigned. And these kids, like, I say they're kids, but they were other kids like my age, like 18, 19 years old. They were straight up illiterate. Like,
Yep.
they didn't know how to write a single sentence that is grammatically correct. Like, I didn't see spelling errors. I just saw you can't use the English language.
What's weird is like you'd think that in the age of texting that people's grammar and actual spelling, not handwriting, but actual efficiency at writing would be better. Like it took years for my generation to learn where to put commas because we just didn't type a lot. We didn't text a lot outside of text messages to friends. You didn't write outside of writing in college, you weren't writing extended paragraphs on a regular basis. That became, and even then you went and spell checked afterwards, which became a monotonous drone-like process where it says, I'll put the comma there and there and there. Now you actually have to know where to put it because your spell check on your phone isn't going to do that for you.
Right. And it's normal for language to evolve, right?
Yes.
But the way it's evolving now is that meaning is completely dissolved. So that's worrying. And people are talking about DEI, and now that DEI is getting rolled back in at least federally funded institutions, we're going to see a return of competence and hard work and merit. But the problem here is that you're going to see even more planes falling out of the sky, buildings and bridges toppling over to the ground once Gen Alpha is responsible for creating our infrastructure.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Mary thinks that Vivek was right. We're going to have to import everyone with H-1B visas.
The problem was never that teenagers were going to the mall too much. The problem now is that possibly teenagers aren't going to the mall enough. And actual babies, toddlers, and young children are not interacting with other human beings at all.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem with a lot of maybe Gen X, millennials, Gen Z is that they were kind of sequestered off into these fake social environments where they're only interacting with people their own age, and they didn't learn how to make their way in the world with other generations and negotiate responsibilities and things like this. The issue with Gen Alpha is they're not going to have even that limited amount of social interaction because their iPad, their tablet, is their primary caregiver. And I wanted to have end it with this more worrying statistic.
People said
from
black pilling Mary. She's about to make it blacker and pillier.
Yes. Well, 9 out of 10 of these parents considered their child ready for school, which is, I'm just going to say that's an absolute joke. Teachers say only 2 out of 3 children that they are responsible to teach are ready for school. And even that standard has been diluted over the years. This study finds an alarming disconnect between some parents and schools about what readiness for school actually means. That means the parents are expecting schools to parent their kids.
Yep.
And there's no end in sight.
Idiocracy was right.
Yeah. There's no end in sight to this trend because they want to abdicate their responsibilities off to the state.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.